In episode 42, we discussed the week that was, including an angry say what battle. We're going to talk about John Piper and his admonition for the vaccine. We've got a call in your shot focusing on the NBA, a new version of trivia, and a look at our favorite OT Bible passage on prayer in Fix Your Eyes.
Welcome to Six in the Mix. A band of brothers talking faith, family, sports, and politics. Join us on our journey.
Again, welcome to episode 42 of Six in the Mix. Again, please drop comments, topic suggestions on our Facebook page, probably the best way to get a hold of us. If you enjoy this, share it with a friend. We had a faithful listener that had reached out to us about our Alcohol and the Believer Fix Your Eyes session, and hopefully you saw us post that. She was asking that this would help with a conversation with a friend, and that's exactly what we want these podcasts to do. Hopefully, you'll be able to smile a bit, laugh a little bit, but also encourage you in your walk with Christ. So please use these in a way to help and share with friends as well. But let's get into it. The week that was, and we're going to start it off, gang, with an angry say what battle. There's been a lot of anger and frustration about some topics, and so I've got a three-way. This is a three-way battle, and it's more along the lines of angry and frustrated. So let's get into it.
As many as 1 in 3 emergency responders in some cities like Chicago, Los Angeles, right here in Baltimore, are refusing to comply with city vaccine mandates. I'm wondering where you stand on that. Should police officers, emergency responders, be mandated to get vaccines? And if not, should they be stay at home or let go?
Yes and yes. The two things that concern me, one are those who just try to make this a political issue. Freedom. I have the freedom to kill you with my COVID.
What you talking about, mister?
And I understand Greta's frustration and anger, which is, I feel the anger, same anger. Mm-hmm. People are getting in the way.
What you talking about, mister?
We have fewer democracies in the world today than we did 15 years ago. Fewer. Not more, fewer.
What you talking about, mister?
All right. So we've got a three-way battle, a little bit of anger and frustration there. What say you?
Well, I'm going to go with the first one that you played. That town hall was just another demonstration of entertainment at its finest. I mean, that was fantastic. I loved every minute of it. It was fun to watch. Had popcorn by my side. I think I spilled a couple drinks on me. I was laughing so hard. I think it was a grade A comedy routine. And I don't know if it was a bit or what, but it was fantastic. CNN top notch. I would also like to know where they filmed that, because I think they might have been in China, because I swear all the people were clapping and hooting and hollering for that freedom after that freedom little spiel he gave.
Yeah.
It was unbelievable. I was like, who are these people and where are they coming from? And I couldn't believe it. It was just out of control. So I'm going with number one.
So Don, you're telling me you were one of 17 live viewers of the Biden town hall? That's amazing.
I was. Count me in.
I think third season of Saved by the Bell had about 100 times more viewers, on Nickelodeon than Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm with Don. Number one for me is the winner. I mean, if we were measuring this segment on pure anger, I'd say number 3. He seemed really fired up, and I don't know how accurate that is about less democracies now. I just don't know the answer to that. But number 1, and the fact that we're trying to answer the question freedom, and he's mocking people wanting freedom as the president of the United States. That is very concerning to me.
Yeah. Jeremy, in the Great Hall, what do you say?
Yeah, I'm with number 1 as well. Although I do want to comment on Carrie and Greta and the anger. Is there anger like a soft anger, and is it cuddly, or exactly what anger is Kerry trying to, demonstrate there? I wanted to vote for him, but I really, it's just to give me enough, girt there to do anything with. And I almost wanted to give Greta a hug or him a hug just because they needed one, I don't know, but yeah, number one, yeah, it's just crazy. I didn't watch the town hall. I didn't even know it was happening until afterwards. I saw a news release on it. So maybe I should go back and watch it because I have heard a few things about it that's just ridiculous. But anyway,
Yeah.
What's new?
I'm actually going to go for Mr. Carey. I think Mr. Carey takes the cake, and it's so there wasn't a lot of context behind that clip. He's preparing to head to Glasgow, Scotland, for 2 weeks. There's a big climate change crisis summit for the whole world, summon the whole world to this thing, and so he was commenting on that. But Jeremy, a little bit along your lines is. It's just this like accepted, soft-spoken, yes, we're angry, we're frustrated, but we're in control. And I just can't believe everybody else is not going along. That's for me is the most frustrating thing. Like it's just accepted. And if you're not angry, or not along with my view of that, then then you're, you're hated, you're angered, you're spat upon. It's crazy. So, all righty, let's get back. Want to get just your guys' take. We, obviously, I'm still pretty high in the Vikings, but it has been, I don't think there's ever been a time where the Timberwolves and the Wild have started off as hot as they are. I think the Timberwolves are 2-0. The Wild dropped their first game, I think tonight, or they were down last time I checked, but I think they're still 4-1. The Timberwolves are 2-0. There's a lot of hype and excitement in the Twin Cities. What do you guys say about that with our other less popular winter sports teams?
Yeah, I'm not a hockey fan. I should be, having grown up in the state. My brother, he's always liked hockey, but I'm actually kind of excited about the Timberwolves this year. They certainly, last year they had some pieces. We had a great rookie. We had, of course, Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. But they dealt with injuries. And if these guys can stay healthy, what really encouraged me, I've watched a little bit of them this week. They're playing defense and they look really energetic on offense. I mean, if they can put these things together, I'm excited to have cable at least for a year or two now. So that will give me something to do once in a while on a winter night instead of freeze with the 20 below temps we'll have in a couple of months.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, Ryan, because on the defensive side of things, because last night's game was definitely won because of their defense, and that's something we never saw in previous years. So that's what makes me want to tune in and take a look at these guys more. So if I can get past the wokeism of the NBA, I might try and pick up a few more games.
That's cool. I think the Wild have had a lot of, promise over the last several years, but they always start off so horribly. So it's good to see them get off on the right foot. Minnesota's a hockey town, man. It'd be great to bring a title back. So hopefully we do that. One last question in the week that was, Ryan, how did your dynasty fantasy football matchup play out today, and who are you playing?
Yeah, thanks for asking. Timely question as well. I got a text message a little while ago. You all may know Ethan, formerly or currently a Six in the Mix podcast member. He beat me in our matchup this week, and honestly, he had career days from every one of his guys, and I felt pretty good going into the matchup. I did not get. Here's the kicker: of the 5 skill position, the running back, wide receiver combinations, I had 5 guys plugged in there. I did not get one rushing or receiving touchdown out of any of them.
Ouch.
And it's hard to win. The closest thing I had was Derrick Henry threw a touchdown pass today. So that's just how it went. And so what do you do?
That is the saddest news I've heard all day.
I know.
Did you actually say I lost? Did you say those words? I lost.
Am I supposed to?
I don't know. I don't know if our listeners or just me like hearing you say that. I don't know.
What I wonder is,
I guess it's me.
Do our listeners get enough joy out of me saying that, or is it just you 3 clowns?
he is the commission. He is the commissioner. So technically he probably will not lose a game this year. So let's be honest.
Right. I probably could adjust some scoring in the matchup. That's not a bad idea, Don. Thank you. I forgot about that option.
Well, here we go. Codes and buttons. Here we go.
We'll call that the Arizona audit option. Wow. Love you, Eth. Love you, man.
Yeah, way to go, Ethan. Everybody reach out to Ethan if you know him and thank him for a well-timed beatdown of our friend and colleague Ryan. So all right, good stuff. That'll wrap it up for the week that was. Going to turn it over to Don for kind of the main topic.
Well, gentlemen, I'm a little excited about this topic here. I think it was earlier in the week. I texted this out to you guys, and our good friend John Piper, the former pastor of Bethlehem Baptist for about 33 years. I know Matt attended John Piper's church for a few years. John Piper's definitely one that has been on my podcast list, and have listened to a number of his sermons through the years. And he is also the founder and a teacher at desiringgod.com. Pastor Piper. .org. I'm sorry. Yes. And so he released an article on the 19th, and the article name was "A Reason to Be Vaccinated, Freedom." And he starts out his column by saying, "My aim in this article is to encourage Christians to be vaccinated, and if they can do so with a good conscience and a judicious medical warrant." So, gentlemen, I sent this out to you guys, and I am dying to know what your guys' thoughts are on the article. Did you have a chance to read it? And included in your answer, what are your thoughts about our spiritual leaders, dare I say, or people we look to in the Christian setting, in the Christian realm, as far as outspoken theologians, ministers of the faith? How do you feel about them wading into the waters, if you will, of something so politically, maybe politically charged, even if it maybe should or shouldn't be? So with that in mind, if anybody, I don't want to put you guys on the spot, if anybody has some comments right away, go ahead and jump in. Ryan, go ahead.
You win. You win.
Ryan's the winner.
You found something to win at today.
Super. I'm happy to share my thoughts. I'm guessing I probably will be for the first time in my life, the odd duck in the group, but that's fine. I did read the article, Don. I didn't read it until yesterday, and so thanks for sending that out. I did see some other people on maybe social media mentioning it. It did fire up a good share of folks I know on social media, and probably a good chunk of our listeners, knowing some of those folks out there, they probably were not thrilled with what Piper shared. I read through it. Going into the article, I was having some concerns because, frankly, I've not always agreed with what John Piper says, though I respect him. I think he's had great influence on Christian culture, and he's been a really important voice over the last several decades. Having said that, back to this article, I really liked it. I thought it was well written. And anytime you talk about freedom, which is part, I think, Don, you mentioned, is part of the title and a theme throughout it, I'm usually on board with freedom, just as I was when I was talking about the Biden clip that you played, Matt, where he was almost mocking freedom in America. And so going into the article, based upon some of the responses I had seen, I almost was sensing there was going to be more of a push, like, hey, Christians, go get vaccinated. You've got to do this. This is going to be good for you to do. And I didn't gather that out of the article. He said it's got to be an individual person's choice if you can do it with a clear conscience. And that sounds a lot like Romans 14. And I I was in total agreement with him, and I appreciated, because I feel like the bulk of the Christian voices I hear are more anti-vaccination than they are pro-vaccination. And if you recall, I am pro-vaccination, though I don't want mandates. I want people to be able to decide, to look at the data, look at the evidence, and say, okay, this makes sense. I think this might help me have a healthy outcome if I'm exposed to COVID. So I want to say thank you to John Piper for at least putting it out there. And maybe it opened up some Christians who were pretty closed off and almost feeling like this is part of the end times, that we're getting the chips in our bodies, and all these spike proteins that are being inserted are going to turn into chips, whatever the fear has been. I hope that alleviated some of those fears. So I did appreciate the article.
All right. Thanks, Mike. Jeremy, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to address maybe the your leadership delving into some of these things, that part of it, because maybe I kind of sit in a leadership role, and that kind of speaks to me. I find this, whether it's Piper in this situation or whether it's any type of world problem, that any leader that steps out and starts to lead is very circumspect to high criticism and maybe a not a fair evaluation for maybe some of the things that they said or things they do or practice, or whatever the case may be. In this situation, Piper writes an article, and I think his attempt and the things that he was trying to do was trying to bring people to a little bit more of maybe a knowledge base, and to, yes, give them some encouragement. However, I know that there are in today's political climate, it's almost impossible to see things without that lens. And I am like Ryan, I'm all for freedom. I want to be able to choose to either vaccinate or not vaccinate. I want to be able to choose to pray in school or not pray in school. I want to be able to choose to pledge to the flag or sing the national anthem. I want to be able to choose to do those things and have the freedoms to do those things. At the same time, if I'm a leader and I go through with something, let's say I go get vaccinated, because I'm not, and I'm not anti-vax, I am pro-freedom. If you would like to get vaccinated, go ahead. Right now, I'm choosing not to, and it's because I've had COVID twice. So I've got stuff in my bodies already. Anyway, but if I were to go and present that to, let's say, my school and church and whatever, and kind of push that, to lead in that direction with saying, hey, I did it, it's okay, and maybe kind of give some of those safety nets. Leadership always is prone to being a target and have darts thrown at you, and it can come both ways. It can come from good and bad. All that to say, if I'm a leader, I can share my personal experience and say, this is my personal experience, but it doesn't have to be yours. It's just what I chose to do, and here are the reasons why. That's great. If it's a push and a ploy to go beyond that, I think you're doing exactly the opposite of what you've aimed to do with trying to say, hey, look, this is what you should do. You know what I'm saying? There's just a very fine line there that I see. And I couldn't quite tell which side necessarily he really wanted to be on, because there's the freedom side and there was, hey, this is some, some information to maybe not, be so upset or scared or whatever, just some information about these things. So anyway, I'm thankful he has the ability to write and has the freedom to do so. I'm also thankful that I have the ability to evaluate those things for myself and agree or disagree. And if a leader comes to the point where he says, or what he says and what he writes, and you have to believe that, if it's not based, it's just a decision, not based in truth or biblical truth or whatever the case may be, then there's something that has tipped the scale to no longer is it freedom of choice. It's now, hey, follow me just because I'm a leader and you need to follow me. I don't want to follow somebody who is, and I'm not saying this about Piper, I'm just saying in general, I don't want to follow somebody and I'll name our president, who says, do this because I want to know why I'm doing something. I want to have the decision based on my own situation. And this is, quite frankly, I think what our forefathers designed this country to be. And I do not want to give that up. I don't want to give that up. And so even in things like this, it didn't necessarily hit me the best.
Appreciate that, Jeremy. Good thoughts. Good thoughts. All right, Matt.
Yeah, so it was great that you sent this out, Don, because I feel like I'm maybe uniquely qualified to comment on this for a couple of reasons. Number one, our family just got done having COVID, so that's why we've not had a podcast out for a little while. So it started with me that we know of. At least I was the first person who tested positive, and then the dominoes fell, and it was about 2 to 3 weeks of just working through the whole household. So we're coming off COVID, and obviously, I think it's interesting. I'm not sure if I've communicated this well on the podcast. Originally, I'd said I was going to clearly get the vaccine, right? This is what I'm doing. Had started getting gout flare-ups and decided to hold off on that, and I've still not been vaccinated. So we got COVID. Thoughts as you're going through COVID, it's not fun. Should I have gotten vaccinated? I think those are natural things to think about. So I'm just coming off the COVID thing. And then John Piper writes an article. We went to his church for about 5 years, and so I had a chance to be actually fairly close with him as I was performing on the worship team. You got a chance to pray with him before the services and really see his heart. So I've got a soft spot in my heart. I got a high level of respect for him and his approach. And so I'll answer your first question, Don, about leaders, branching out on that. I think not every pastor needs to have a political stance on everything. I think Piper's got a unique, setting as one of the, kind of one of the leaders, I suppose, of this era in Christendom. And so he's got a way of communicating and provoking good thought among the church. And when I first read through the article, I was like, man, that's classic Piper. I was just kind of blown away and just thinking through stuff. And I said, you know what, I better go back and give it a second read. And I read through it a second time. And though I again enjoyed the challenge to get into the word, which is always good, there was a phrase near the end that really, and I think, Jeremy, you hit it really well. Like a leader has to be very careful that what he's saying is not like manipulative in a sense, whether intentionally or unintentionally. As a leader, you've got to know that. But he had a phrase near the end, and he said, your conscience is increasingly clear, period. It says get vaccinated. I think that is a very poor approach, because there's a lot of people who trust in Piper and would not, they might relinquish their own beliefs, their own thoughts, and say, well, I should get vaccinated. Piper's saying, he's kind of my conscience. No, Piper's not any of our consciences. That we are our own. And I think that's the thing that jumped out to me is really, dare I say, irresponsible. I think he took it too far and he entered into the manipulative part of it. So I don't think you throw the baby out with the bathwater. I think there's good thought throughout the article. But for me, when you close that and you really kind of flex your leadership and the respect that people have in you and try to say, hey, I'm your conscience, and you know what it says, like that's not right. That's not right.
Yeah. Good thoughts, guys. Yeah. Well, I guess, for my thoughts, I think when I first read it, I felt a little uneasy. And I think having read through it, it just didn't seem to sit right with me at first read. Now, I think that's something that I've been conditioning myself these last few months, if not year, conditioning myself not to believe everything I read now, because it seems like we're getting thrown misinformation from all over the place. And I think, truthfully, I think that's the Holy Spirit in me just giving me some discernment, saying, I'm being very cautious, and I'm trying to listen. And like Jeremy said, you mentioned that, Jeremy, you said there's a little bit of this ambiguity in the piece. Is he on this side? Is he on that side? And that really, really bothers me. He ventured into this into this voyage about a year ago about the election and how he was going to be voting for Biden and not Trump. He has these times where he ventures into that sphere, and I really, like I said, was disillusioned with the ambiguity. That's a tough word. Ambiguity of the piece, and it felt like it was like a little sleight of hand intentionally he put in there. I also didn't like the stats that he used to defend his position. The stats he used, well, let's be honest, the opening lie where he said nearly all COVID-19 deaths in the US are now in people who weren't vaccinated. Now, that alone made me want to delete my internet history because I felt like I was looking at porn, because that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And when that Holy Spirit starts working in you, you start to feel that way, and you don't want to go any further. It's proven inaccurate. But in the previous day, the day before the release of the article, the former CDC director, Dr. Robert Redfield, is quoted saying 40% of recent COVID deaths in the state of Maryland were among people who are fully vaccinated. His article was from May 1st. When was we haven't had time to adequately look at the numbers for vaccination at that point. So his premise is clearly off right from the beginning. And if the vaccine was working so well, why would we be pushing a booster so hard? I just think that the data on the vaccine right now is just so rapidly evolving in this time that we have, and it's just non-transparent. Anyone who claims to be an expert about it is lying. And it was just really sad. I mean, what planet is Johnny Pipe Dream living on at this point here? I mean, it's sick. It's sad. It's sad to me for him to kind of go down this route. I was mowing my lawn on Thursday and listened to a podcast, the Steve Day Show. And in the second hour of the show, I didn't even realize he was going to do this, but he did read the article through. And I don't know if anybody's heard of Steve Deace. He's on the Blaze Network. But he couldn't even get through the piece. He is a staunch supporter of John Piper. He's listened to hours and hours. He grew up with John Piper, and he was very disappointed, to say the least, in what his thoughts were. But also to address my own question, should leaders should wade into these waters? I think they should, especially when it is contradictory to scripture, whether it be through lies that are being told to us, or like pro-abortion or like abortion ideologies and things like that. I think we very much need to see our Christian leaders take part in these discussions, because we look to them for that, especially when it contradicts the Word of God. Now, I also want to take this opportunity too, because as you know, guys, we've been off for a few weeks and I've had nothing but time and had a week off from work. I've been reading, I've been looking at things, and I've just been chomping at the bit to jump on the podcast here. So let me get, why don't you guys gather around the fireplace here? And I want to say a few things. So first thing is, let me be clear, and I do not say this cavalierly. I truly believe this, and it is truly my understanding we are being lied to. We are intentionally being deceived. And I didn't want to give into this conspiracy-like feeling or thinking, but this is no longer a conspiracy. This is a fact. Conspiracies are based on theories, and this is not a theory. This is a fact. And it is all on us. It's all on us as Christians to roll up our sleeves and figure this stuff out. And I know you guys are going to be rolling your eyes at me saying, okay, here goes Don on his latest conspiracy theory rabbit hole. And remember when Don went on the stump and claimed that we were all in a color revolution and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, the color revolution. I believe it now more than ever. Please prove to me where I was way off on that. But what I am claiming, I don't say, as I said cavalierly, I spent hours reading and finding the truth for myself. And that's the only way people are going to come to the same conclusions, is if they do the work. And I'm not going to convince anybody with this podcast. You have to dig into it. You have to diligently take the time, read a book, research the internet. There is a treasure trove of information out there just waiting to be found, because these people are so brazen enough that they've left trails out there for us to find. And let me get into the repurposed drugs. Repurposed drugs, hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin are in the news right now, especially ivermectin with Joe Rogan and all that. Those repurposed drugs, in the eyes of big pharma, they don't make money for them, right? They do not make a penny off of those anymore because they've been through the system. They make money on the vaccines. And if these drugs work like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, then emergency use authorization is not needed, right? So AstraZeneca, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Moderna, they wouldn't be lining their pockets right now. And public health officials like Dr. Fauci and agencies like the CDC, WHO, NIH, they're all in on this. Combine this with the globalization ideologies that leaderships, people like Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab of the World Economic Forum, and I know you guys are careful, Don. He's going down the complete global conspiracy aspirations. Here we go. Buckle up. But no, I mean, all these leaders, they use what they call the noble lie to pillow their heads at night. What is a noble lie? A noble lie is used to further a higher purpose. That's how they justify it. Just last week, we had the NIH have confirmed in a letter that the U.S. tax dollars, my money and your money, went to gain of function research at the Wuhan lab in China. Our federal tax dollars. Fauci lied, and our federal tax dollars paid for COVID-19. And I haven't even mentioned China yet. And you guys remember, we discussed China as who's our greatest threat, whether it be China or civil war. Well, I think it turns out it's both. Both are the correct answer. And while we're debating pronouns on TikTok and CRT and mask mandates at school board meetings, we have a government that believes they all know better. And we are too stupid to disassociate fact from fiction. Just think about it. We live in a world where the president of the United States defines freedom and laughs at it. And his definition of basically of freedom is the ability to live freely as long as you comply with his policies. We live in a world where a three-legged labradoodle has more rights and more protection than an unborn child. We live in a world where our children are required to wear a mask to go to school, despite the irrefutable proof that they will likely die of cancer, a car accident, God forbid, suicide before they die of COVID-19. We live in a world where we have a mentally ill 4-star general commissioned to the U.S. Health and Services named Rachel Levine. Did you guys see that? Yep. Just discouraging. I thought it was another bit. We are living in this information war, and it's a war of deceit and deception. Those are the weapons of mass destruction, and our country is becoming a nation built on lies. The lies of Anthony Fauci, health and media organizations, the lies of our politicians in order to advance their narrative. It's just like a big snowball. It's never going to end. I had a chance. Well, I watched, I don't know if you guys have watched the HBO series called Chernobyl. HBO does a few good things once in a while. And Band of Brothers is one of them. I love that miniseries about World War II. And they did a series, a mini series on Chernobyl. It was an actual docu series, if you call, and it's a six episodes about the nuclear disaster in 1986. Happened in Russia, of course, we all know about. Obviously, that not a whole lot of information on that. But that mini series that I just watched opened my eyes to something. The protagonist in the series, it's called he's a Russian science name, Valery Legasov. And he was the one that was in charge to go and figure out what happened. He was a scientist. And he had to make a choice towards the end because he could either continue to lie for Mother Russia or tell the truth and expose the regime for who they are, and perhaps initiating the actual fall of the Soviet Union, which General Secretary Gorbachev believed to be the case years later. And in the last episode, 2 years after the disaster, they're in the trial, and it's basically a show trial in front of cameras and everybody in the world. And he goes off script, much to the KGB's chagrin, because he knows if he goes off script, he's either getting a bullet in the back of his head or he's going to a hard labor camp for the rest of his life. And he says this, and he's referring to his homeland, Russia, in this quote. He says, "Our secrets and our lies define us. When the truth offends, we lie and lie until we can no longer remember that it is even there, but it is still there. Every lie that we tell incurs a debt to the truth. Sooner or later, that debt is paid." And when I saw that, I was like, how fitting for today. And it's breaking my heart to think that pre-Cold War Russia and the United States of America are literally drawing closer and closer with each other and eventually intersecting at the point of dissolve and self-implosion. I'm sure Piper's big pharma check is in the mail, and then they're nodding in approval of his propaganda, and they've got another shill to manipulate. But I am sure that things are going in the wrong direction. And I want to challenge three things. I'm going to leave with three challenges for you guys and our listeners. I said, first thing is seek the truth. We are held to a higher standard. Christians are held to a higher standard. Fair or not, it's just the way it is. And not only do we depend on the truth for the scriptures, we know it inside it. We should know it inside and out, but we also need to admit that we can't seclude ourselves in a Christian bubble and ignore what's going on around us. God forbid there come a day when I have to make a choice of taking the vaccine or getting a paycheck from work. Because believe me, I will die on that hill and my conscience will be clear because the Holy Spirit helped me discern the truth. Second, don't comply. Just don't comply. It's one thing to say you will not fall in line. It's another thing entirely when you're relying 100% on God to protect you when the bullet starts flying. And lastly, find your voice. Figure out how the best way you can combat this. You may not be able to run for a school board. You might not be able to do a podcast. You might not, have that platform. But let me say this, don't be the silent majority. Because just by you speaking up saying, I don't believe that, it might encourage somebody else, somebody like John Isaac in the NBA who's found their voice, and it's been awesome. So that's my challenge, you guys. And I know I took a little longer than I probably should deserve, but it's just been on my heart and my mind these last few weeks, seeing what's happening in this world. And this vaccine mandate is a scary, scary road to go down. And I think it's even more scary with things like the Great Reset and things like that are happening, that John Kerry and the climate change czar and Klaus Schwab look into these things. Please look into these things and search out the truth for yourself.
No, certainly some good interaction on that. We will have a link to the article, and then maybe even a link or two, Don, for some of the things to maybe help us go pursue that if as we're seeking the truth too, just to kind of help ourselves and our listeners as well. So good stuff. Always be thinking, always be digging. We're going to turn it over to Jeremy for calling your shot.
All right, we got two questions tonight. One is, who will be the NBA champions? for this season? And then secondly, which we did dabble in just a little bit, will the Wolves make the playoffs? So 2 questions to answer as far as this is concerned. So I'm going to start with Matt. You're going to go first, then Ryan, and then Don. So that's our order. All right. So who's going to win the NBA championship, and will the Wolves make it to the playoffs?
Yeah, I probably feel the least qualified to comment on this. I've not followed the NBA much at all. I'll probably pick an emotional one, but it won't be the one you guys think it won't be the homer pick. But I really did want Phoenix to win last year, and thought they had a great team, and was not pleased to see Milwaukee win it all. So I hope they get a little fire from that, and they go and win the championship. I think, Nash, it'd be great to see him win, and just some of the young core that they have down there. So I'm going to pick Phoenix, but that's more of a heart pick from last year. I don't know if it's going to translate to this year, but I would love to see them win, and I'm going to pick them.
Wait, did you say Steve Nash is still playing?
No, not. Who am I thinking of?
Paul. You're thinking of Paul.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking of. Yeah,
I
yeah.
mean,
they're
Nash played for them.
essentially
Nash played
one's
for them
white,
back
one's
in the
black,
day,
but they essentially play the same.
I got you.
They play the same game. Yeah.
Hey,
It
I'm
didn't
back
sound
with
right
Jeff
when it came out,
Hornacek
but
and Lucas and all the guys.
That's the COVID talking. I don't know.
Ivermectin.
Which, by the way, we do have ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine in this house, so it's been good.
Nice.
It was a journey
Nice.
to get it, but we do have it. So anyhow, then I got a second question. Will the Wolves make the playoffs? Man, it's hard to say. I mean, they start off 2-0, a lot of energy. Have they gone through enough growing pains as a young team to make it in the West? Is it just 8 teams making it in the West, or do they have like a play-in game? Does a play-in game count? Is just straight 8?
Straight 8, I think.
It's 8.
Ooh, man. Yeah, I'm gonna say they make the playoffs.
All right. Sounds fair. All right, Ryan, you're next.
Well, I started thinking about this long and hard, and I said, first of all, to the question about the Timberwolves, will they make the playoffs? I think they will. I know we just said it's early. Things have looked good, but the fact that they're playing defense and they've got young bucks who are blossoming as we watch them today, I like their chances to make the playoffs. And I know there are a lot of good teams in the West, so I will say yes to that. And the more I thought about it, I'm like, do I want to pick them to win it all, or would that be too much like Matt? And just as Jeremy, was it Jeremy or Don who said a pipe dream?
Pick them.
You can tell he wants to.
I started just playing this out in my mind. The Lakers are one of those dream teams, and they've been beaten once or twice already this year.
Well, they're getting
smoked. So they're not a concern. And then I thought, well, Phoenix almost won last year, and I remember toward the end of the year, the Timberwolves beat them in Phoenix. So you can see how the calculation's going. No, I'm not going to pick the Timberwolves to win it all. I am actually going to agree with Matt. I'm going to pick Phoenix. And Jeremy, I know you're from Arizona, and so there's a good chance you might be picking Phoenix, but I'm going to say Phoenix because they were one of the teams that just destroyed the Lakers this week. They went into LA and just thumped them. And I'm with you. I hope Chris Paul gets a title. Devin Booker is one of the great scorers in the NBA, and DeAndre Ayton is one of the most underrated big men in the NBA. And they were right there doing it last year. So I'm going to go with Phoenix.
All right, Don, you're up.
Question: is Chris Paul a dirty player or just a wily veteran?
Wily.
Wily?
He's wily. Absolutely.
You think so?
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Yeah, I don't know. I go back and forth with that guy because yeah, I think I just can't stand him at times, but I think that was pretty that's reaching back into the old experience playbook and pulling it on him. So I don't know, I go back and forth, but yes, the Timberwolves will make the playoffs this year. I think they'll sneak in at 7 or 8. And then I also think that the Lakers are going to win the championship despite their torrid start fighting on the bench. They look like a complete debacle right now, but it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. They've got too much talent on that team to not win, and they can't afford not to lose either. So they have a lot riding on the line, and I think that roster is ridiculous. It is just absolutely ridiculous, and it ticks me off. It ticks me off more than anything. But yeah, they're going to be the champions.
Mhm.
All right.
Can I just say one thing, Jeremy, before you share yours?
Sure.
I did want to point this out as kind of a dark horse candidate because I think it's really cool. But the Utah Jazz actually have two guys named Rudy on their team. They've got Rudy Gobert and Rudy Gay. So if you like the movie Rudy, the great underdog movie, I think Utah could be sneaky because they've got the most Rudys on their team. So
brilliant. That was a terrible aside, but whatever. All right.
Terrible take. Terrible take. I heard Rudy Perpich is the one of the owners.
Brilliant. Yeah. And he heard Indiana's supposed to be good at college this year. You don't know. All right. I digress. So I was thoroughly disappointed last season that the Phoenix Suns did not make that history of winning the title. And because Phoenix Suns is probably the only professional team that I actually rooted for from the time that I grew up to even today, because we didn't have, the Cardinals weren't there when I was a young kid. We didn't have hockey there. Baseball came in when I was a kid. So, I mean, all these teams like matriculated into Phoenix, which I have no idea why they weren't there in the beginning because of the weather, but whatever. The Phoenix Suns were there. And so when I knew that there was a chance for the Suns to make the finals, and then they did, I was all in. I mean, my son and I were watching games. We are, I felt like I was in the Don's house, like before a baseball game or something. We're just getting ready, like, finding our seats. It was just exciting. So I'm going with the Suns just because it's got to happen. I want Paul to get that trophy. Booker is a great player as well. Although I think he's still young, and I think he's still got some development things to go through. With living near Milwaukee, there are a lot of good things that are still happening there, and they've got some great talents. Giannis, of course, is just ridiculous. I mean, just watching him play, you can't argue that he's not a good player. And to be honest with you, I do have respect for him as a player because they didn't go out and necessarily buy players to bring him in to stack their roster. They did it more of a traditional way. So kudos to them for actually winning a championship, maybe restoring a little faith in the NBA from my perspective. But I do want the Suns to win. I'm going to say that the Timberwolves, off to a great start, will not make the actual playoffs. I don't think they're going to do it. I just think they are too young. I think there's kind of this, I've played on teams before, you guys know that sometimes when you just launch out of the gate and everything's going great, then all of a sudden it's just like all that energy just goes into a vapor, and then you're left with injuries, you're left with kind of these problems. If they can hold it together, great. Yeah, I just don't see it in the length of the season, the NBA season, that's going to happen. So I'm actually going to put them out of the playoffs. The Suns win it all this year. So that's our calling your shot. Take it or leave it. We're going to throw it over to Ryan, and we're going to have a new spin on trivia.
All right. Thank you, Jeremy. And I guess it's proof that you haven't even watched the Timberwolves play this year. Clearly, they are playoff bound. But I must say, we've got maybe some of our best consensus answers between those two questions for any calling your shot segment. So that's kind of neat. All right. So we are going to enter a new stage of trivia. If you all remember when we started trivia, Matt was giving us some questions related to music and Bible for a while. And then Don introduced us to the initials game. And now it's my turn to host trivia every time we do a podcast, which I'm looking forward to as much as I love competing. This will be fun for me to be on the creative side to come up with some good questions for my fellow counterparts here. So I'm going to actually base it off the theme that Matt had started, and we're going to call this T Cubed, Truth and Tunes Trivia on a podcast basis, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly. So yeah, we're gonna just call it T Cubed. We'll tee up T Cubed, and we'll get underway. Matt's gonna help us with the background music, which is going to be from my great famous and my favorite game show of all time, Jeopardy. So we will have that as a backdrop, and you know what that means, guys? That means you're going to have to answer in the form of a question. So I'm going to give you a sentence. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, man. We got to make this legit. So
Okay.
it's going to cause some extra thinking, and I apologize for that. But
I like it. This is a curveball.
a little bit of a curveball. Yep. I feel like maybe in some of our other contests, sometimes people have answered in the form of the question, right? Without even thinking, because that's just how Jeopardy is. And that's what's ingrained in our thinking. So if you guys are ready, I've got the 3 questions queued up. You all went to a Bible college with me, and we probably have enjoyed at least similar styles of music. So I think you all have legitimate shots at each one of these. So here we go. And Maestro, cue the music.
Hold on. Wait,
Oh,
wait, wait.
boy.
Whoa.
What do we got?
So we got 3 questions, right?
You
We got 3
it.
questions, and we got 3 answerers.
Yeah.
What is there a tie break? Is there a tie
Yeah,
break?
great question.
I was just going to cumulatively give points for each question. So Don, if you get all 3, you would just end up with 3, and just moving forward, you're sitting at 3.
Wait a sec. There's got to be a winner for tonight, though.
You guys want a weekly winner?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well,
Yes. And
sure.
the cumulative. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes,
All right.
I need something to propel me into my week with a win. I need all the help I can get.
And I desperately need another loss in my life. So let's just do this.
All right. So here's what I'm going to do for a clock. I know Don, when he would keep time, sometimes got a little shaky. He got a little long in the tooth, as it were, with his timekeeping, especially when I was out of the equation. But I'm going to try.
I don't know what you're talking about. That's ridiculous. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm going to try and remember to do this. So I'm going to basically do a count of 5 with my hand, and then once the 5's down, the question's over. All right. So
are you counting up to 5 or down to 1?
I'm gonna just do like this, going up.
Really? Typically has a countdown. If it's a trivia, it's like 5, 4, 3, 2. You're counting up. I think I got a lot more time.
I don't think Ryan's athletically gifted enough to
Correct.
do that.
I don't have that kind of dexterity. It's easier just to stick fingers up and pull them down.
Hey,
Plus,
what am I trying to do?
He has to whistle the tune as well. So this is going to be a challenge.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Oh boy.
We're all in trouble. Let's be honest. Okay, so who's ready to enter a trivia contest where I am not going to win?
Oh yeah.
I still don't believe that there's some way you've rigged it so that you can win this.
Well, he already did rig it. There's no winner. He's like, we got 3 questions, 3 people. So
I guess that guy won.
I guess I'm going to write a paper now and just publish it.
I'm with Don on conspiracies. I'm in.
Oh boy. All right.
Yeah,
Here
you
we
ready?
go. Ready. Question number 1. This reference owns the title of the longest verse in the Bible.
Matt.
Go ahead.
Believe that's Esther 8:9.
That is correct. Matt is on the board. Longest verse in the Bible, Esther 8:9. Well done, Matt.
Man, what came to my mind was the longest sentence in the Bible, and I was thinking Ephesians 1, but
Ooh.
Oh, like the prayer. Yeah, good call.
I need to store that one in the memory banks. Okay. Matt is on the board. And thank you, Matt. Using your name is how you buzzer in, since we don't have those nice Jeopardy buzzers. So,
yeah. See, I didn't know what to buzz in with. I didn't get that's why I didn't answer. So I thought
me either. I pushed my butt. I'm
going around the horn. I think that should be a practice question.
We get points done. We get points.
Wait a second.
Everybody's a winner.
I hate to
Trophy,
tell myself.
number 1.
Did I answer in a question form?
Oh,
Did I just say Esther 8:9?
What is
Esther
Esther 8:9?
I don't think I said
Don.
Jeremy,
Don, go ahead.
I was clicking my buzzer. I
Go
I
ahead,
didn't
Don.
do the motions. Hey, your hand's already down. You had 5 down. Nope, we're all winners.
This is off to a rousing start.
Unbelievable.
All right.
I'm glad
We'll give Matt a little grace. Okay. Give Matt a little grace. And I was too busy with my fingers to remember the question part.
That's
so
appreciative. Yep.
Please give me a little
Try to be
grace
honest.
too.
Oh man.
Yeah. I should give you 2 points for honesty. That is
I
good
agree.
work.
Yeah,
Oh my gosh, here we go. Oh
Here we-
no, we already got Matt joining sides with Ryan, and it's just never gonna end now. I've seen this play out before. we have no chance.
I know.
It's like the two dark forces joined together to make it even darker for us.
We got socialism right here working at its beginnings.
It's where I will agree with you, Don, is probably, if I were to think of most similar music interests, it might be Matt and me. So so I'm going to try to remember that, but nature is nature, So
Reach.
Preach as he's chalking up the count. All right. Question number 2, Maestro. This minor prophet might be considered the minorest of the minor prophets, as it is the shortest book in the Old Testament. Don.
Man,
What is it? Who is Micah?
That is incorrect.
Okay.
Jeremy, go ahead.
Who's Malachi?
Incorrect.
Matt,
go ahead.
Zechariah.
He didn't answer the formal question. He's done. He's out.
No, yep.
Oh, I can't get this right.
Yep.
What is Zachariah?
Who is Amos?
I got it
Who
into
is Jonah?
45. It's not Amos.
Incorrect, even though it was not in a question format. The answer is our friend Obadiah. Obadiah. So,
Obi-Wan
all right.
Obadiah.
Okay, so I do have a third question, and I suppose if Don or Jeremy gets it, the crowd has voted. We need a tiebreaker between those two. So I can make that happen. All right. So
I'm
question,
sure you
question number 3. Here we go. Now we're switching gears. We're heading into music. All right. This song's second verse begins with the words, unresting, unhasting, and silent as light.
I can't answer music question when I got music playing in the background. Matt. Hold on a sec. Let me stop the music. What is How Firm a Foundation?
Incorrect. We'll start the timer again. Don.
I don't like the hands.
What
That's too much pressure.
What is In Christ Alone? I don't know.
I don't even need him to tell me that. Right.
Come on, Don. You and Matt sang that at my wedding. You should know that song really well.
I don't remember that wedding.
I just remember after the wedding.
That was classic. That is a podcast in and of itself, right there.
Man. Jeremy.
All right.
Can I just sing it?
Here's the answer. Do I give Jeremy another 5 count?
Yeah, you got to give him a 5 count. Pick a hymn, Jeremy. Just give it a shot, man. Jeremy. He just dialed in.
I don't know the name of it.
All right, good. Stumped you guys. The answer is Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise.
Of course.
Yeah.
What is Immortal, Invisible, God Only Wise? So
never would have got that. I did not know the name of that hymn. I've sung it. I've probably sung it a million times, but I don't know the name.
So here's the thing, man. I'm gonna protest right off the bat. Week 1.
Boy, here we go.
You can't ask.
Guy won. He won. Didn't he win?
Yes.
Yeah.
I cannot do a music thing when I got other music playing in the background. I'm at a serious disadvantage. I cannot think that way.
Suck it up, Buttercup. Let's go.
Here's what I'm going to suggest. For music questions, where we're talking about that, we don't play the Jeopardy background to make it fair for me.
I say no.
Let's take a vote. Don, Jeremy, should we make it fair for Matt?
No.
What are you whistling Dixie for? Come on, man.
Keep the music. Keep the music.
I guess Matt, you've been voted down. We got to keep the music at all
Keep
costs.
the music.
Keeping it.
It's going to help with that focus factor.
Jeremy, what is keep the music?
Focus, Pastor.
Well, that was a great round one of T Cubed. Guys, thank you for your participation.
Yeah, good stuff. That was certainly fun. Ryan, thanks for putting it together. We look forward to the upcoming episodes as well. So we're going to transition into Fix Your Eyes. Still on the topic of prayer, I want to just open it up to the group. Looking at the Old Testament, what is your favorite either verse or passage on prayer in the Old Testament and why? So we'll go in the order of Don, Jeremy, Ryan, and then myself to close on out. So Don, why don't you let us know favorite Old Testament passage on prayer?
Well, this is actually a prayer, so I hope that counts. Will that count if it's a prayer, like the Psalm? Is that what you're thinking? Or will that suffice?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I appreciate that. All right, so Psalm 51, and this is actually the psalm written by David, and this is after he had committed adultery with Bathsheba, and it's a famous psalm. I sang this psalm at my senior recital in college, but it's that psalm. Oh man, I lost it. Here it is. Restore the joy of my salvation and make me willing to obey you. Then I will teach your ways and to rebels, and they will return to you. Boy, just a powerful psalm. I love this. The fact that he was in deep guilt. I can't imagine what this guy was going through, and how he was able to pen these words is astounding to me. And pleading with God to wash him clean of his guilt and purify him from his sin. He recognized his rebellion and haunts me day and night. Just some amazing words that I know that I've looked to on occasion. So
yeah, it's great. The man after God's own heart. Good to see him after the sin as well. So good stuff. And I'll also link these passages or Bible verses in the description, so you guys can take a look at them later on. So Jeremy.
Don, I have to say, I was so hoping that you were going to say that you sang that at Ryan's wedding. That's what I was hoping you were going to say. You don't know why, but oh man, I should have
might as well have been sung at my wedding, right?
I probably should have. Probably should have sung that after the wedding. Yes, I think I should have asked for forgiveness after that wedding.
That is great. Anyway, so I took the question a little bit differently. I didn't go after actually specific prayer, although there is one that is recorded for us very clearly. But I've done quite a bit of study and just really enjoy Nehemiah as a book. And I am really just captivated by the fact that this guy was exiled, taken out of his homeland, and he was put in a position of power and really a close proximity to the king. And he had a great relationship. And in the first two chapters, actually, maybe the first three chapters, first two specifically, Nehemiah is dealing with a very, very difficult situation and some things that could cost him, more than what maybe he was willing to give away just personally, but because the Lord was with him. It just time and time again, there's this statement that Nehemiah just prayed. He prayed. And I don't think it was those prayers of, length. I don't think there were prayers that were, just over the top, trying to say every word right. I think it was just bow my head. What am I going to do, God? And it was just that simple. And I can't tell you how many times that just comforts me to know that I can say that, and I have a God who listens to me, and he'll give me answers in the time of need. And in verse 10 or chapter 10 of that book, they do some he talks about the fact that there is a prayer that they just call God who he is. God, you are God, and you are God alone, and you are powerful, and you are awesome. And then they list a whole bunch of things that God is and what he's done for them. And just, it's a radical change in their culture and a radical change to their, to the way of living that they were accustomed to. And now they're being brought back as a nation, and they consummate it with prayer. I'm so thankful for those examples in the Old Testament, not leaving the New Testament out, but just knowing that they had communion with God, and it's just a blessing to me. So I like Nehemiah as my Old Testament kind of go-to.
That's great. Thanks, Jeremy. Ryan, how about you?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think we all had slightly different takes on this assignment for Old Testament passage relating to prayer, and what to share on that. Mine might be a little bit more towards, well, actually, I think mine's probably right in the middle of Don and Jeremy's. So I thought about this, and you think about some of the famous verses that stand out in the Old Testament. Several of them are in Psalms, and of course you got 2 Chronicles 7:14. If my people, which are called by my name, humble themselves and pray. So those are some good ones. There's a prayer of Jabez somewhere in there too, right? That
I was wondering if we would hear that mentioned.
Yeah, that became pretty popular. So that crossed my mind, and I started thinking a little bit more. And I think to me, my favorite passage on prayer goes to Daniel 6, when Daniel, because of being the man of prayer that he was cast into the lion's den. And so to me, what I see is a man so convicted and so understanding of the priority of prayer in his life, he was willing to risk his life to pray. That stands out supremely in the Old Testament to me. And so I looked at that again, and it's just amazing. Not only what he did and what he risked to be able to have this time with God, so others could see him. But if you were to fast forward, that's Daniel 6. If you were to fast forward to Daniel 9, you really see a great prayer. Daniel 6 doesn't give any lines that he says in those prayers. It just tells us what happened to him. The king was saddened to send Daniel to the lion's den, but certainly loved Daniel, man of principle. But chapter 9, which doesn't get to me as much credit for Daniel's prayer life, you really see the heart of somebody who is crying out to God on behalf of the nation of Israel. And we've got several great examples of prayers in the New Testament, most of them from our Lord. But this is quite an example. I'm convicted of how can I make my prayer life more like this, where he acknowledges the greatness of God at the front end of Daniel 9. And then he gets into, we have really transgressed you, Lord. Please have mercy on us. And it's more than just one or two quick statements, which I tend to try to do in my prayer. There is a lot of heart, devotion, concern, and you get really an understanding of his passion for prayer, as well as his priority for prayer back in chapter 6.
Yeah, that's great, Daniel. What a man of God. I went to a psalm that it might have been one of John Piper's messages that kind of bore out in a way, as I recall correctly. But it's Psalm 116, verses 12 and 13. And it says, "What shall I render to the Lord for all of his benefits toward me? I will lift up the cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord." And I just think it's a great expression of dependence. Sometimes we think, because God's done all this stuff for me, what can I do for him? And I think, we certainly can serve him, but the psalmist challenges us. We'll continue to ask for more help, and we'll continue to depend on him. That's how we best serve God. And I think that's a good challenge to us. So just encourage ourselves and our listeners, lift up your cup of salvation and call on the name of the Lord. Bring your requests before him, confessions, adoration, praise, those types of things. So really good thoughts on prayer from the Old Testament. The next episode, we will look at the New Testament. Then I think we'll come in for a landing. So maybe 2 more episodes on prayer. Then we'll get into our next topic. Just give you a heads up. All right. That is a wrap on episode 42 on this, the 24th day of October, year of our Lord, 2021.
This was 6 in the Mix, talking faith, family, sports, and politics. Find our episodes on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast content. Review us and leave a comment. Visit our Facebook page at 6 in the Mix Podcast and comment on what topics you'd like us to discuss. We are also on Twitter at 6 in the Mix Pod. Join us on our journey.